We'll say Guten Chodesh or Guten Erev Shabbos. I just want to finish up the rest of Kuf Amud Beis. We left off 17 lines down from the top. V'hari Meir. Rabbi Meir, we heard just the opposite. Remember again, Rabbi Meir was quoted before as saying that an Eved is like metaltalin. Eved is like movable property. So we saw just the opposite. This not because we learn Gazel Behema Vizkino. The person, I stole an animal from Reuven and the animal got old. Avodim Vizkino or Avodim and they got old. So what's the halacha? So obviously now there's a value difference between the value of the item at the time that I stole it and the value now. So what's the halacha? Mishalim Kishasak Zela. I have to pay in accordance. We actually saw this. This was a big sugi in Baba Kamo that when you steal something, the value of the stolen object is locked in as of the time of the theft. Rameir says Ba'avodim. Rameir says, when it comes to avodim, I have the ability to say to the owner, look, I stole the Eved, here is the Eved back. To which the Gemara says, well, so what do you see from here? So that's reminiscent of karka. Karka is the same way, right? If you steal karka, you could say Arishal Chalafanecha. So it sounds like we're treating avodim just like karka, not like metaltlin. Halo kasha, that's not a contradiction. Kidemachlif Rabba Baravua. Rabbi Baravua actually changed around the attribution of opinions. V'tani, and he taught Rabbi Meir Omer Mishalim Kishasak Zela. Rabbi Meir holds that Halacha L'Maisa, you pay in accordance with the time that you stole, both for avodim and for anything else, right? So they changed the attribution. So essentially, Rabbi Meir's shita is consistent, and in both circumstances, he holds that an eved is treated like metaltalin. Elo mimaydis of Rabbi Meir makshin and karkali eved. So rather, again, so what are we understanding over here? That Rabbi Meir holds that an Eved is like karka. We actually mentioned this before. Ma Eved nishba'in, af karka nishba'in. So if that's the case, again, we say that just like, again, an Eved, ultimately, again, one swears over the Eved, so too a karka. So Mar says, Dilma, a Eved hu nishba'in ala karka lo. Maybe a person only takes an oath on an Eved, but not karka. To which the Mar says, lo, sachdaitcha desachat lo. Mar says, no. Why? Sachdaitcha desanya hamachlif para b'chamar v'yolda. So we'll say this is a brisa that's very much, very close to our Mishnah. So a person does a kinyan chalipin with a para and a chamar, with a cow and a donkey, the yolda, and now again, remember, the cow gave birth. So the donkey was the animal that was present, was the vehicle to effect the chalipin. The cow was off-site. By the time we get to the cow, Mazel Tov, has delivered a baby. So now, an offspring, right? So now the shaila is, did it do it before the chalipin, after the chalipin? So what happens if, again, let's say I say, Ruvain, I'm positive that the cow gave birth after the king and chalipin, and therefore it's mine. And Ruvain is not sure. Zacha, so I acquired the animal. Ze omer eni yodeh, v'ze omer eni yodeh. What if neither of us know? I don't know, and Ruvain doesn't know. Yachloka, we split it. Ze omer b'shusi, v'ze omer b'shusi. What if we both make definitive claims? I claim it happened after the chalipin. Ruvain claims it happened before the chalipin. Yishava hamocher sheb'shuso yolda. Ruvain, the seller, swears that the animal gave birth before the chalipin. Why? Because Rabbi Meir holds that halacha l'maisa, anytime you take a shvua in order to exempt yourself from payment. So in this case over here, Ruvain would take a shvua to exempt himself from having to give me the offspring. The Chum say no. And the Chachamim say that there's no oath neither on avodim nor on karka. Now again, it would appear that the Chachamim are holding that avodim and karka are the same. Lav michlad Rabbi Meir savar nishbain. It was, we could infer from that Rabbi Meir holds that you can swear regarding avodim. So the Gemara says, so that would seem to indicate that ultimately, again, right, that we were saying before that an Eved is like metaltalin, to which the Gemara says, Mimai dilma kashem kamrule. Ki hechi de odislan bekarkos odilan ba'avodim. Maybe what they're saying is Rabbi Meir is, Chachamim saying to Rabbi Meir, the same way that you agree with us ultimately, again with karka, that you can't swear in karka, agree with us that you can't swear on avodim. And of course Rabbi Meir then disagrees. Teida. This is not Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, Yesh dram shem karka ve'enika karka. The Gemara says, Rabbi Meir says, there are things that are like karka, but yet are not karka. Right? So in other words, they're like karka, but not karka. So the Gemara says, ve'ein chachamim modim lo. Chum disagree. What are they arguing about? So for example, Ketzad, Yud Gifanim Tunos Masarti L'cha. I say to Ruvain, I gave you 10 vines laden with grapes. V'alo Omer Einon Elo Chamesh. Ruvain says, you only gave me 5. Rabbi Meir Mechayev. Rabbi Meir says, it's a mod of a mitzvah, partial admission, and therefore again, Ruvain is obligated to swear. The Chacham say, no, kol mechubel karka, harihu kekarka. Anything that is attached to the ground is like ground itself. So therefore the vines, the fruit, that's all karka, and we don't take a shvu on karka. Anavim ha'omdos libatzer ika beinayu. Rabbi Yosef Chanina says, what's the point of contention over? What's the machlokes? That the vines in question have grapes that are ready to be harvested. So what's the shayla? Dimar savar kibitzuros damyon. One opinion says that any grapes that are ready to be harvested are as if they are harvested already, and therefore the grapes don't have a din of karka. Rather, again, they have a din of metaltalin. Umar savar lav kibitzuras tamyon. And the other opinion says, no, they're not like harvested grapes. Ela li olam kred Rabbi Yoshia. So we'll say, so now we go full circle. So remember again, all of this whole discussion over here was an effort to go ahead and get us to try to understand the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah had a case like this, right? I claim that Reuven sold me a big Eved. Reuven claims that he sold me a small Eved. So the halacha is, if both of us are definitive in our claims, Reuven swears, and he goes ahead and only has to pay me the little one. Okay, that's the halacha. That's the halacha, right? That's what the statement of the Mishnah. Okay, Hamocher Omer Katan Macharti V'Ala Omer Eini. I'm sorry. Ze Omer Gadol V'Ze Omer Katan Yishav Hamocher Shakatan Machar. So again, I claim Reuven sold me the large Eved. Reuven claims he sold me the small Eved. Reuven swears that he only sold the small Eved. That's what he pays me, and Shalom Yisrael. So we're trying to figure out, but normally we assume that an Eved is like karka. And the same way that you don't take a shvua on karka, you also don't take a shvua on an Eved. So we just had this whole thing so we were just kind of dabbling in the position of Rabbi Meir, who holds that an Eved is like metaltalin. Now the Gemara kind of comes full circle. The Gemara says, you know what, you're right. Let's go back to Rabbi Oshia. What did Rabbi Oshia say? Rabbi Oshia wanted to suggest that actually the case is where I claim that Reuven sold me a big Eved with his clothing, and ultimately, again, Reuven's claiming he sold me a small Eved with his clothing. So since the clothing is metaltalin, so essentially we have a mode of a mitzvah, so therefore we swear regarding the clothing, and once they swear regarding the clothing, zokikin, you could add on a shvua about the Eved itself. Now the reason we rejected Rabbi Oshia is because the Gemara said, so the Mishnah is coming to teach you the halacha of zokikin, that you could add on a shvua? We've learned that already. So now the Gemara comes full circle. Zokikin. We rejected this before because of what? The Gemara is coming to teach me zokikin. It's trichsatayt chamina ksus eved ke'evedami omri sadek kisadadami kamashmalan. Rabbi will say, what's the chiddush? The chiddush is, I might have thought that the clothing of an eved is essentially like the eved himself, just like the sheaves of a field are just like the field themselves. Kamashmalan, what does the Mishnah teach me? That an eved's clothing is metaltalin, and that sheaves in a field are considered to be metaltalin, and therefore halacha l'maisa, when we have a dispute, and I say, Reuven, you sold me a large Eved with his clothing. Reuven says, I sold you a small Eved with his clothing. That's a mod b'mikzas on the clothing. And once Reuven has to swear about the clothing, he also has to swear about the Eved because of zokakin. The chiddush being, clothing of an Eved is not treated like the Eved himself. Incredible. Let's go weiter. So we'll say, so remember again, the Mishnah also said in a case where neither of us are making a definitive claim. I don't know what Reuven sold to me. Reuven doesn't know what he sold to me, so they split it. So the Gemara says, Hamani, whose opinion is this? Sumchasi, damar mamana mutal b'safek cholkin. And this is sumchas. Sumchas is whenever you have doubt regarding a monetary claim, ultimately, again, the resolution is split it. I aim a seifa ze omer b'shusi v'ze omer b'shusi yishava. What about the seifa that said I make a definitive claim, right, that the animal, right, the cow gave birth after chalipin in my rishos. Reuven says it gave birth before chalipin in his rishos. What's the halacha? Yishava hamocher shebershus so yaldas. When both make definitive claims, then in that case, Reuven, the seller, makes a shvua. So the Gemara says, now let's analyze this. Well, the Rabbi Barav Huna de Amar in Amar Sumchas Afilu Bari Ubari Amayi Shava Mocher Yachloku. Now both say, remember, according to Rabbi Barav Huna, we saw in Amud Aleph, who says that Sumchas's klal of Maman Amotel B'Safek applies even in a case of Bari Ubari, where both sides are making definitive claims. So in this case, where I am claiming the animal gave birth after Chalipin, Reuven's claiming it gave birth before Chalipin. This is Maman Amotel B'Safek, and it should be Yachloku. But yet that's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says that halacha l'maisa, Reuven takes a shvua. He swears that the animal gave birth before Chalipin, and he keeps the animal. What's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, To which the Gemara says, Mo de sumchos heichadika shvua daraisa v'dakata liyada kidirava. Shabbos says, so there's a two-pronged answer over here. So number one, the Gemara says, sumchos agrees in a situation that we don't just employ achloku in a case where there's a shvua daraisa. What's an example of a shvua daraisa? Mod b'mikzas. So in other words, sumchos views this case as a mod b'mikzas, since ultimately, again, we're agreeing that the chalipin occurred, we're agreeing ultimately again that a sale occurred. We're just disagreeing about the nature of what it is exactly that occurred, and really again we're focusing a little bit more like in the latter cases. Right, in the latter cases. So again, halacha l'maisa, even Sumchas agrees that in a situation where you generate a biblical shvua, like Mod b'mikzas, that you won't say Maman Amutal b'safek cholkin, instead you'll take the shvua. Furthermore, the Gemara obviates the halach problem that we spoke about earlier in the daf, with going according to Rava, where ultimately the seller changed the object in some dramatic way after the sale, but before the object was delivered, either by cutting off the hands of the Eved, or by going ahead and digging some holes in the field. So because he fundamentally changed the object, therefore again, halach doesn't apply. Incredible. So I will say, so bottom line, it's just important to understand that the premise of this entire discussion over here is pretty much all focused on sumchos, right? So there's a couple of really like secondary issues that come up, like avadim. Are avadim like metaltalin, not like metaltalin? So that's metaltalin or karka. So Meir says metaltalin. Everyone else pretty much says karka, which is why we're not going to take a shvua on an eved, but any shvua you're going to take on an eved ultimately is about clothing. Chiddush number 2 is that the clothing of an eved is not treated like the eved himself, rather is treated like separate and independent metaltalin. Another interesting machlokes when it comes to produce, ripened produce that is ready to be harvested, is it considered as if it's already been harvested, or is considered to be attached? So again, meaning, is it considered mechuber l'karka, or is it considered to be metaltalin? Another machlokes. But the overarching machlokes in all of this is a statement of sumchus and the chachamim, because sumchus is going to say maman amutal b'safek cholkin. Whenever you have a doubt regarding monetary law, we're going to split it, and the Chachamim will constantly say, but interestingly enough, even Sumchus seems to agree, that in a case where the Metzia of the case triggers a Shavua D'Oraisa, you are going to go ahead and have to take an oath in order to go ahead and resolve the issue. All right, I will say, sorry, I know we kind of flew through that last piece a little bit, but I just wanted to get everybody up to the Mishnah, a good Shabbos, a good Chodesh, and Hashem, a beautiful week, and it's such a schus to learn with all of you.